Hello everyone, welcome back. So I was working on assembling a couple short blocks, so I thought I'd just bring you guys along the way for a quick overview. This black one right here is a Gen 3 iron block. It's 408 cubic inches right now. Previous to this, we've done all our machine work. We had the align hone done because we were putting ARP main studs in it. This thing has got a Callies crank in it. It'll have eagle rods and diamond pistons and be 408 cubic inches set up for boost. This right here is our basic iron block LS3 package where we take a factory iron block. We use a factory crank, but Gen 4 rods, all new pistons, and we machine this thing to a LS3 bore, 4.065, put new pistons, LS7 lifters, all the good goodies in there, and we make an iron block LS3 out of it, which we have great success with. I really like those. But before they get to either one of these stages, they have to start out with a core. And either that core comes from, we will just buy a core. This one's fresh out of a vehicle. This is an LY6 core. So it's a iron block 6.0 with 823 heads on it. These are rectangle port heads. So when it comes in like this, we remove all this junk off of it. The cast iron manifolds, the factory oil pan, the intake and everything, and we pull the cylinder heads off. So then we get it to a stage like this where it's essentially just a short block, and this is where we start numbering our piston and rod assemblies, taking a really good look at our main and our cam bearings and all of our rod bearings. So from here, it'll go inside our parts washer for an initial wash so we can get it clean and do a better inspection on it. So after it comes out of our parts washer, it'll come like this. It'll get tagged. You can see this one is a LQ4. That's what it started out life as. But previous to us tearing it down, it was already 30 thousandths over. So now when we're at this stage, we will magnaflux it and check for cracks and determine how usable is it. So this one will definitely be an iron block 6.2 because it's already 30 thousandths over. So we will take it from here and then start our machining operation. We have a few that are in process. So what you have here is this is a, let me look at the tag. So this is a Gen 3 6.0. That's a 5.3. The surfaces have been decked on these. So now what we'll start doing is doing our honing process, and we will hone that to the exact specs where we need it so our pistons will have adequate clearance. So then, after it leaves our hone, because that's our final machining operation, it'll go back into our parts washer again, and then it will start getting closer to a stage like this. So at this stage, the blocks are painted, and then they have new cam bearings installed, all new freeze plugs, galley plugs, and then we start putting our crank in with our rear covers on, and then they go to our final assembly area. As you can see, this engine right here, let me pull the plastic off of this. So this engine right here was built by somebody else, and I discovered this when they dropped it off to me because we were thinking about using it for a project, but I really don't let customers bring their own parts, so I told him that we'd have to take a look at this thing to see if it's even worth using. And when I noticed this, as you can see, they were lifting it up by a seat belt, but we tend to use our lift plate. So we went ahead and pulled this valley cover off, and this is what I saw. So I hope the camera is picking that up right now where you can see it, but I'm gonna get everyone in closer. So this is a Gen 4 style block. Now you can see the differences. They have these standoffs as opposed to a Gen 3 style block, which has your knock sensors down there. But as you can see, they did go through this thing, but there's one There's one major thing that I can see right now that I don't like that will cause me not to use this engine in a project. You can see they lubed everything up. That's fine. I probably would have liked some lube on the push rod there where the push rod contacts the rocker, and some lube here. I tend to use like a Compcam's Valtrain spray, but what they did to block these off is they put RTV in there. And that is not the correct way you want to do that. So when we block these off here, what we do is we put a plug in here. So there's a couple ways you can do it. You can tap and you can tap it and plug it, or you can rivet a plug in here that holds in place. I'll go grab one and let you see what it looks like. So what I think you should be doing is putting a plug in there. So this is installed with a rivet gun, and it's actually a pretty special rivet gun. You can see how it's got a holder on there to catch it. There's actually a couple still in here. So you can even do this while the engine is still in the car. I have done it a few times with the engine still in the car if we're doing a DOD swap. But I prefer a lot of times to pull them out because LSs are very bad on cam bearings. That's like one of their major drawbacks, is that every time I pull a cam out of one, the cam bearings have a lot more wear than I like to see on them. So back to what I was saying. Instead of filling this thing up with RTV, you put a rivet in there like that, and this completely blocks it off. They did use the correct valley cover on it, which was cool. But you just shouldn't see that RTV in there like that. And it looks like they use all new hardware. It's got new gaskets on it. I believe they probably torqued everything down good. You can see it looks like it's got a new camshaft in there. I'm not certain of what type of lifters are in this thing, but so this thing, if they want to use it, we're going to have to tear this thing down. So on this tear down, it would be a lot different than one of those tear downs, because on those engines, we pretty much have a good idea of what it's going to be. It'll just either be a factory rebuild or a complete performance build. So in those engines tear downs, we know that we're going to service the VIA block a lot. But on something like this, the teardown is a lot more meticulous. Like we would use a tray to hold all of our rockers and push rods and our valve springs and everything in order, because unless he wants to go with a full performance build, we're going to try to save as much as possible. Whatever could still get you a few thousand miles of use out of, then we're going to reuse it. As opposed to something like this, we're just going pretty much brand new with everything except for the block. So we would meticulously tear this thing down, inspect everything, clean it up, and give them a couple options. I personally think for this, I don't know how big the cylinders already are, but if they're not already at an LS3 bore, I would like to take this to an LS3 bore, because it is a Gen 4 block, and those blocks are pretty stout. So I like running those to LS3s a lot. So hopefully that's what we'll get a chance to do with this one. And thank you guys for following along. White One Auto out.